M23 rebels say they've seized the strategic town of Uvira in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo just days after the signing of a US-led peace deal. More than 200,000 people have been forced to flee from their homes this month alone.
We are separated from our parents, from our families. This war has taken our sisters, our mothers, and even taken the dignity of our mothers who were violated.
Now, Uvira was the last government headquarters and military base in South Kivu after rebels seized the provincial capitals of Goma and Bukavu early this year. The rebels have made advances into South Kivu and have taken over the towns of Kamanyola, Luvungi, Luberizi, and Sange since December 8th. On December 10th, M23 seized the lakeside town of Uvira, which is home to more than 750,000 residents and internally displaced people from eastern DRC. Now, Uvira is in South Kivu province, a mineral-rich region that has huge reserves of critical minerals such as tin, gold, tantalum, and tungsten that are needed for green technology. Uvira is a commercial hub along the shores of Lake Tanganyika, connecting eastern DRC to neighboring Burundi, Tanzania, and Zambia. The DRC has one of the largest displacement crises globally, with nearly 6 million people uprooted from their homes in eastern Congo due to armed conflict. The UN says more than 1.6 million people in eastern DRC have been displaced this year alone.
We had resisted and were patient, believing that it would pass. But we saw bombs falling in the town and killing people. So we said no. Since it has started killing people, we must leave and flee to follow developments from afar.
Now, the capture of the town of Uvira comes just days after leaders of the DRC and Rwanda signed a peace deal in Washington on December 4th. It set out a de-escalation framework that requires DRC to dismantle Rwandan rebels on its soil while Rwandan troops withdraw from the east. It also had provisions for the protection of civilians and the promotion of a safe return of displaced people and refugees. So where does that leave the peace deal? Let's hear more from Wale Ojewale, from Regional Organized Crime Observatory Coordinator for Central Africa at the Institute for Security Studies. He joins me from Senegal's capital, Dakar. Thank you so much, sir, for making the time. I mean, straight on, just what does the M23 rebels' control of Uvira mean for, one, the Congolese people, and B, the government?
Thank you so much for having me. The number one thing is the fact that the economic lifeline for the entire Democratic Republic of Congo lies within the eastern flank. And if you see, the grand objective is to take over the country, but through strategic operation. So movement from South Kivu towards Bukavu towards Uvira signifies two things. A strategic attempt to cut Congo away from that essential corridor. That is where the export, the import comes through. And two, I believe strongly, to advance towards the Katanga province. If they take over the Kivu provinces and the Katanga province, then the economic lifeline of the Democratic Republic of Congo is gone. And then perhaps to force the hand of Kinshasa to the negotiation table from the position of a weakness, or even probably to take over the entire country. But there is that strategic objective.
And you said it's a strategic objective, and you earlier on said a strategic move to take over the entire country. So the question then would be, just how have the M23 rebels managed to seize more territory, unlike previous times? What has changed?
Yes, I think the sophistication of their backing, and coupled with the fact that, we're talking about this particular crisis now, and we must not lose sight of what the presence of government in Eastern DRC looked like 10, 20 years ago. There are a significant portion of that territory that have been ceded to what has been described as non-state armed groups. For over 2 decades now, they've been reigning and ruling in that region. So I think this present crisis, this present war is built on that existing layer of lack of state presence in that region. And that is what I believe the M23 has capitalized on. The military is weak and is grossly incapable of probably take on the M23. And that is what we are seeing now.
You know, Mr. Wale, moving forward, on December 4th, we saw DRC President Felix Tshisekedi, Rwandan President Paul Kagame in Washington signing that peace deal. But clearly this has been, do I say, violated just a few days later. We're still seeing fighting and war and seizing of more ground continuing in eastern DRC. Just what does this latest offensive by the M23 rebels mean, or where does this leave that peace deal?
You see, that peace deal was purely ceremonial. Even as the peace deal was being signed in Washington, shellings and attacks and guns were flying in the air. And what we have just seen now is the fact that it shows that there is no commitment on the part of the parties. And the big question is, why is Kagame the one signing agreement on behalf of the M23 if he continually claims that he has no hand in it? So I think it's a double standard, really. And the big picture of the fact that the United States is signing peace agreement, but not offering in concrete terms security guarantee for the people. And the idea is, if they truly want to support peace in Eastern DRC, then they must put their feet on the ground to establish deterrence, red lines that should not be crossed and that cannot be crossed. And how do you do that? It is about putting on the ground support mechanisms that is going to aid a peacekeeping operation. And the number one thing is, perhaps if they mobilize their military armament as they have done for Ukraine. I'm not saying to do that in support of Rwanda or M23 or in support of DRC, but for the purpose of deterrence. If they see American ammunitions on the ground for peacekeeping operation, even if it is fighter jets or whatever it is, or even mobilization, then they will know that America is truly serious to commit to peace agreement that has been signed. But if you sign papers in Washington, and there is no military armament on the ground, there's no boot on the ground to foster peacekeeping and establish deterrence, then what you have is what we are seeing now will continue in terms of attacks and bomb shelling, artillery being fired in the troubled zone.
And, you know, Kinshasa has responded. It did that on December 10th, responding to the latest offensive on Uvira, and they're calling on Washington to add on more binding measures, specifically sanctions against Rwanda. That is what Kinshasa is saying. But, I mean, you have said what you think would work, but do you think more sanctions would work? Because this would definitely not be the first time sanctions upon sanctions, but we do not see any tangible change on the ground. Do you think this would work, or maybe what more needs to be done to bring peace?
Sanction cannot do the work. What is going to do the work is mobilization. Mobilization that is unbiased, mobilization that prioritizes the safety, the quality of life of the people who are in distress, who are being displaced. And the way to do that, basically, America has done this in many places. Of course, the present crisis that is going on there is not one that is probably close to any coastal state. I mean, what they've done in Venezuela, for instance, what they've done in many places is the fact that they mobilize their grand and air assets to serve as a deterrence. And I believe so strongly that America can make a lot of significant inroad in establishing peace in the trouble zone of Eastern DRC, but they can't do it on paper alone. And, you know, as long as there is nothing on the ground that really establishes deterrence, this will continue. And that is what we are seeing.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Wale Ojewale, the Regional Coordinator for Central Africa at the Institute for Security Studies. Thank you for your time and your contribution.
Still to come here on Africa Matters.
I'm Isaac Kaleji in Accra, where Ghana's growing food glut is raising alarm among farmers and traders desperate for swift action to protect their livelihoods.
I am Palu David in Abuja. I'll bring you more on why farming is one of the deadliest professions and how that is causing shrinking food production in Nigeria.
To Ghana now, which is grappling with a major food surplus, but it's bad news for farmers and traders who say they can't sell millions of tons of their produce. The government says it's mobilizing millions of dollars to purchase and store the grain, but it's not the only headache they're facing, as Isaac Kaleji reports from Accra.
Stephen Donko is clearing weeds from his maize farm in Kwesi Timtim, eastern Ghana. Maize farmers like him say they are losing about $450 per acre due to a surplus yield this year.
Sometimes I get worried when I look at my crops. Selling them would be a challenge because of the surplus in the system. If we had guaranteed buyers, companies or the government, it would really help.
At Nima Market, grain traders are struggling to clear their stock.
We have too much stock now, so we are asking farmers to delay harvesting. We need to sell what we have first or risk losing our investments.
Ghana's National Rice Development Program projects the 2025 rice harvest will hit 1.5 million metric tons, up from 1.3 million in 2024. But storage facilities are already overflowing with unsold grains, maize, beans, millet, and more. Authorities admit they didn't anticipate this and are exploring options to address the situation. The government plans to spend $18 million on buying surplus grains for storage, saying it's going through the procurement process.
When they are done, they will get the licensed buyers to be on the field to buy the excess for them. We have also spoken to WFP. They are talking to their counterparts in other areas to see what they can do to mop up the SSS. We have also invited ECOWAS because they also have a responsibility to maintain strategic reserves against emergencies.
Analysts blame cheap grain imports for worsening the glut. They want a temporary ban to allow local stocks to clear.
Government needs to give moratorium of 3 months ban on further rice and maize importation to the country. Then we take stock of rice fields that are yet to be harvested. 2, we take stock of paddies that are in the warehouses, and we take stock of Ghana rice in the rice factories. When that is done, we will know if we have too much stock and that we should be able to lift the ban on grain export.
Traders hope consumers will help ease the pressure by buying more. Some of Donko's harvest has been retained unsold. His family is now turning excess cassava into flour while hoping the glut ends soon. Isaac Kaleji, Africa Matters, Accra, Ghana.
While Nigeria is facing a different food challenge, insecurity, especially in the northern part of the country, is making farming dangerous, disrupting food production and putting traders at risk. It's also driving up food prices and hunger, according to the UN. Palum David tells us more from the capital, Abuja.
Michael Danjuma says farming was once a peaceful activity, but herders threaten him, saying his crops block their cattle routes. Sometimes he finds his crops destroyed.
The cattle ate my beans last time, so I cannot afford to lose my guinea corn. That's why I do come here every evening to safeguard my guinea corn.
Herders say the competition for shrinking land is at the heart of these conflicts. Population growth, drying water sources, and abandoned grazing reserves often lead to encroachment on farmlands.
Before, when the communication link between the farmers and the herders was all right, there was understanding, there was trust. Distractions will be made by mistake. The farmer and the herder will settle in the forest and say, your animals have made this decision. Okay, yes, how much am I going to pay? Okay, pay this amount of money. He fails, they shake hands and they continue to live. But today, that understanding and good communication link is now replaced by suspicion and mistrust.
In many communities, violence has grown beyond crop destruction. Bandits steal, extort, and kidnap farmers.
According to them, that I sell 40 bags of ginger, which I did not. The one I sold is 14. So they now come and were calling us that we should give them the money.
His wife was among 11 people kidnapped in Tungan Bijimi, Burundi area council of Abuja recently.
All of us were women. They separate us. Some were deciding that they should kill us. Somewhere said they should injure us.
The Nigerian government says it's doing all it can to improve the security situation. It's also urging herders to abandon their nomadic way of life to reduce tensions with farmers over grazing land. The World Bank estimates that about 139 million Nigerians live on less than $3 a day. And many households are now spending up to 70% of their income on food. An SBM intelligence report shows over 1,300 farmers were killed between 2020 and 2024.
There are 31 million people in Nigeria. We estimate through our Cadre Harmonisé food security assessment that are food insecure. It could be as many as 40 million. So that's a huge number.
Farmers and traders say open borders, high food inflation and cheaper imports are also making farming more expensive.
In terms of labor, it's not cheaper. In terms of fertilizer, it's not cheaper. In terms of the machine that you want to use in the farm for farming to make it more easier for you, it's costly.
For now, farmers like Michael can only hope government promises hold so they can plant, harvest and feed their families without fear and at a cost they can afford. Paulum David, Africa Matters, Abuja.
Switching gears, we head to Eswatini, where formal jobs are hard to find, with the World Bank reporting that 25,000 job seekers enter the market each year, while only 1,000 new jobs are created. Young women face even greater challenges, but a Truck Her campaign is trying to encourage women to break into the trucking industry and achieve financial independence. Nokuhanya Musi talks to some of them.
In 2023, Southern Star Eswatini, a logistics and fuel freight company, launched the Truck Her campaign to mentor, train and employ more women as truck drivers. It currently employs close to 20 female truck drivers within a workforce of 276 men. Among them is Lungile Shachwayo, a 32-year-old single mother of 3. She's become a skilled truck driver and gained financial freedom.
Becoming a trucker has helped me improve my life in so many ways. And as a single parent, I've been able to give my children the life that they deserve. I take them to schools, I'm able to feed them, and I'm able to buy them clothes. So they're always happy because their mother is a trucker.
With mentorship from 51-year-old Gugu Lamini, a veteran truck driver who specializes in driving heavy-duty vehicles to neighboring South Africa, Malawi and Zambia, there are plans to expand the pool of qualified female truck drivers in landlocked Eswatini.
The young women joining us should embrace the effort required in truck driving. They have no reason to feel scared. At this young age, I pray that God protects them until they achieve the level I have reached.
But they need a heavy truck driver's license, a minimum of 5 years driving experience, and specialized training to qualify. Truck drivers with up to 10 years of experience can earn more than $1,000 a month. Through the Truck Her campaign, young women in Eswatini are not only gaining driving skills, they are reshaping the economic landscape by embracing opportunities that were once out of reach. About 1 in 3 people in Eswatini is unemployed, with men marginally more likely to have jobs compared to women, according to official data. Companies like Southern Star Eswatini usually conduct their own accredited in-house training facility to ensure drivers are trained and assist.
So we started the campaign with women drivers that have licenses with no experience. In the next 5 years, we will aim to bring up 50 women and empower them so that they can become the drivers that we want in the future.
They are hoping that the Truck Her campaign will rev up change and fuel economic independence in rural communities. Nogukanya Musi, Africa Matters, Matapa, Eswatini.
We head to Botswana next, which is deepening long-standing ties with Turkey, signing multiple bilateral agreements since a new government took office last October. Previous administrations often prioritized strengthening ties with traditional Western allies, including the United Kingdom and the United States. Mkondisi Dube tells us more from Gaborone.
Cordelia Likhwale is one of the first Botswana students to benefit from Türkiye's scholarship program.
Part of this scholarship, I needed to learn Turkish language, and this language has opened doors for me. In addition to having obtained the master's degree that I did through the Turkish government scholarship, there came this language that I'm using even today, right? So I get to here and there translate for foreign investors, Turkish investors in English-speaking countries like Botswana.
Another student, Chanda Katlekhang, recently returned from Turkey after studying public health and climate change.
Sending young Botswana-Türkiye can help advance their education, specialize their skills, and it also builds their capacity when they return home. They're able to put into action the skills, the knowledge that they learned in order to solve or to advance community and national development projects by applying innovative and evidence-based solutions.
The two countries' diplomatic relations date back to 1981, but Turkey only opened an embassy in Gaborone in 2014, while Botswana is actively working on opening an office in Ankara as the two countries prepare to mark 45 years of diplomatic relations.
We have seen high-level visits, especially from Minister of International Relations, Honorable Butale. He visited Turkey twice this year.
Political and international relations analyst Professor Zibani Maondeni says the ties between Botswana and Turkey are strategic, particularly at a time when traditional allies are putting up trade and immigration walls.
They are a country that is more focused on development. Countries like Turkey, countries like Iran, these are countries that have working technologies that Africa in particular can rely upon.
Other areas of cooperation include infrastructure development and energy. Turkish company Ulsan Holdings is among an international consortium that recently entered into an energy deal with the Botswana government worth up to $5 billion.
In August this year, while hosting his Botswana counterpart, Turkey's Foreign Affairs Minister Hakan Fidan said his country's relations with Africa are based on mutual respect and a win-win principle. Kondisi Dube, Africa Matters, Gaborone.
And finally, to Angola, where greater efforts are being made to increase the number of sea turtles along the country's remote Atlantic coast. Through a community protection project, a former turtle hunter is now at the forefront of saving a species on the brink of extinction. Randolph Nogel brings us that story.
Joaquim Avelino Fragoso once hunted endangered sea turtles in these waters. Now he protects them. Angola's shores are home to 5 species of eastern Atlantic sea turtles, which are categorized as vulnerable or critically endangered by conservationists. But only leatherback and olive ridley turtles nest on the beaches around the Longa estuary, located on Angola's mid-north coast.
In the past, each one could kill 10, 20 or 30 turtles every day. For what? We used to keep them salted as dry meat to sell and also to cook in smoke.
Joaquim is now using his hunting skills to ensure the survival of these vulnerable creatures. Supported by Universidad Agostinho Neto, Angola's oldest university, Fragoso is among 70-odd villagers who've been trained to protect turtles.
Nowadays, I look at the turtles as human beings like me. I see turtles as the same species as me. So I have a lot of difficulties eating them, like in the past.
The local Kitabanga Sea Turtle Project covers some 25,000 nests overall. Together with his team, Fragoso conducts night patrols in search of turtles laying eggs to ensure their return to the ocean is safe and sustainable for the community.
The community we are developing in different areas. We have the social inclusion for ladies, the wives of the beach patrolling guys. We have the other project, the pilot project for the young ladies from the community. They do a jam, tomato jam, and traditional dishes of the region. And for the beach patrolling, we have the tourist guides. They do ecotourism guides for the visitors of the project.
The project has not only helped in protecting the turtles, but it's also boosted conservation research, ensuring both a short-term and long-term approach to their survival. Randolph Nogel, Africa Matters.
That's our show this week. Share your thoughts and suggestions about the M23 rebels' advance in the DRC's South Kivu or any other stories you've seen on this episode. You can leave your comments on our Africa Matters YouTube page or on X. Thanks for watching, and it's goodbye from me, Grace Correa Kanja.